Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the ATS Business University marketing training. This morning, we actually have a special training from the CEO of Ice Buddy Systems, Miss Pamela Norris. She is going to speak with us about emergency preparedness and several other different things that we can do to make sure that we are prepared in times like this. So, Miss Pamela Norris, I now turn it over to you.
Thank you, Deanna, and welcome to another episode of Straight Talk. Well, we're going to be focusing today on coping strategies when quarantined, because every day now, new restrictions are being put in place. We're going to hear from you about what restrictions you're facing. And we found that we've got businesses that are closing, schools have closed and the children are now home, activities have closed and been canceled, meetings have been canceled, speaking engagements have been canceled. And, for many, the only thing that's open right now are pharmacies and grocery stores. I know that here where we are here in Maui, that as of tomorrow, all restaurants and bars and everything will be closed. You're not even allowed to be on the road unless you're going to a doctor's appointment, unless you're going to a store or a pharmacy. That's how restrictive it has become where I'm living. It may not be that bad where you are, but this is what's happening here. And across the nation, everybody's being put in different levels of quarantine, self-quarantine, whether you have the disease or not. And so we're all going to have to learn how to cope being in this new situation. Life, as we've known it, has changed on a dime. And this new normal does not look familiar, and it certainly feels foreign to us. And because it feels foreign to us, one thing you have to understand is that we're all starting to try and figure out, how do we operate in this new normal? How do we operate at home 24/7? And we find ourselves even acting differently. So what I want this class to focus on is really having an honest discussion with each other about, how do we discover who we are in this new situation? We knew who we were when we got up in the morning, got the kids fed, off to school, we went off to work. We've been doing that for years. It was rote. But this stuff of getting up and the kids are in your face all day long and you can't go outside, that's a whole new dynamic that we have to figure out. How do we operate in this new realm? And we need to figure out who's in control, and am I still in control? And if so, what am I in control of? Because in the old normal, we knew our role. We knew what we had control over and what we didn't. This is something that's being imposed on us. We didn't volunteer for this. We were told you're going to stay in your house. And when somebody tells you you have to stay in your house, that's control. So now the issue of control becomes something we're having to address. In today's session, Straight Talk session, we're going to divide it in half. The first half, the first hour, we're going to be talking about coping skills for staying in quarantine. We're going to talk about, how do you manage your emotions? How do you manage what you're thinking and feeling during this time so that you are not succumb to depression, anxiety, although you're going to feel it, but being succumbed to just give into it and let it take over you is another thing. And what we're going to talk about is how to address the feelings that come with being quarantined. In the second half of the class, we're going to talk about resources. What are we all going to do for the next 14 plus days as we are sequestered in our homes, in our apartments? How do we survive? How do we not kill anybody in the process? How do we not go mad, start raving mad in the process? So we're going to give you and talk about lots of resources, because we're survivors. So we are going to make sure everybody who sees this show makes it through the other side. All right, so let's start off talking about the dynamics that shift when one becomes quarantined. I need you all to get something right up front, off the bat. That's why we have Straight Talk. Do not assume everybody's going to deal with this quarantine the way you're dealing with it. Don't assume they should. Accept it, cope with it, deal with it the way you do. Remember, it is different how you feel about being quarantined if you're single and you live in an apartment or a house by yourself versus being confined with family members. And it depends on what type of family members. Are they all your children? Are they your in-laws? Is it your mother? You have elderly people. Who's quarantined with you? And so that experience is very different from single people who live alone versus people who have others with them. It's also going to be an extremely different experience if you were the income provider and now your income has ceased. Because our identity is tied up with being an income provider. And so when your job has been taken away from you because it's shut down, it's one of those restaurants that the local mayor says must now close, and you're now out of business through no fault of your own. They've just said, you just can't come to work and that's it. And you may have some ambivalence over, what happens next. You may not even have been told whether you're going to continue to get your paycheck or not. So if you were the income provider and you knew who you were in that normal, how do you act? How do you feel? How do you react when in this new normal, you're not providing income for anybody, not for yourself, not for your family? It looks also very different and feels very different if you are retired and your Social Security check is coming in monthly, showing up in your bank account, and maybe you had a pension from your old work that you've done, that's still showing up monthly in your checking account, and you just know, hey, I'm still getting my money, my Social Security check, my pension check, my automatic bill paying of the mortgage, of the car note and everything is just going along like it was in the old normal. This hasn't made a shift for me financially. So this feels very different for people who have economic security and consistency than for the person who has none. And no two people, of course, as I said, will experience the quarantine in the same way. Their level of anxiety is going to be radically different. And so we need to be compassionate with each other. We need to listen to each other, because we can't say, oh, don't worry about it. That's not helpful. They have reason to worry. Don't say, oh, it's not making any difference to me. Well, that's not helpful either. Just know, yes, you may have it better for one reason or another, but it doesn't mean they do. We need to have empathy with each other. We need to listen to each other. We need to find out when we hear someone talk about their pain, their anxiety, their depression over what's going on. We need to listen. And if they've asked us for advice, then you can give some suggestions from a loving place in your heart that speaks to their needs, not your needs. So I'd love for you all those who are on this morning, to unmute your self, and let's do a little bit of sharing, because I need to know, to help me with the rest of this morning's class, who's been told to self-quarantine wherever you're living. Tell us where you are. It'd be helpful so the group hears what state you're in and what you've been told, and how many days you have been told you're supposed to self-isolate, to self-quarantine in your home, and how are you feeling about this? What What are the emotions that are coming up? What are the thought processes? So I'm going to stop talking for a minute, and I need you all to do like Miss Grace always says. She says she's a school teacher, and she says when she comes on, you all have to talk. Well, I'm asking you to unmute yourself, and let's hear from you.
We haven't here. We have, oh, Vastine, if you want to go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'll listen, Deanna.
We haven't been told just yet to quarantine ourselves, but Antonio is always on top of things. So unless we absolutely have to go to the office, he has us all working from home. We down here, we haven't been told to quarantine ourselves, but they have started shutting down the restaurants, the bars. Fast food restaurants are open, but only the drive-throughs are open. The pharmacies and like the dollar stores, the Family General, and the grocery stores are open. But as far as the restaurants and things like that, they've already started shutting them down.
And Deanna, you were telling me an interesting story in the pregame air time before this class about something that's been that happened in a daycare center in your area. Can you share that story with the rest of the class? I think people need to know what's occurring around the country.
Well, this morning, Antonio, he sent me a message. And when I looked at it, I was still kind of half asleep when I heard it go off. But when I looked at it, it's, and I can actually read, it says, apparently a daycare teacher in Texas City, which we are, for us, it's like where we stay, a main street, and then Texas City it's one of those kind of merged type cities where you can drive through our city to get to the other city, or drive through that city and you're in our city. And it says apparently a daycare teacher in Texas City has the coronavirus. And they say she has been going to work sick, exposing everyone else. So they've decided that they are shutting down for the remainder of the week. But people are literally going to work knowing that they are exposed, and they're dealing with children. And I don't know if y'all have heard in the news, but there was a newborn baby born with the coronavirus. Ms. Pam has been sharing with us that there's 5-year-olds, there are kids under the age of 18 and younger that are now coming up as not only exposed to, but actually have it. So we literally had someone down here going to work every single day at a daycare, dealing with toddlers, kindergartners, first graders, second graders, third, fourth, fifth graders, and with the virus exposing not only just the children, but the other teachers there as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Deanna, for sharing that. Vastine, what were you about to say?
Good morning, Pamela.
Good morning.
Thank you again for all of your help. I'm roughly 45 minutes away from Deanna geographically, okay, in the Houston area. And basically life is relatively the way it was 3 weeks ago in this section of Harris County. Mobility, there's nothing interfering with our mobility. We're not locked down. Of course, restaurants are closed, but the basic necessities, facilities are still available. Pharmacies, gas stations, and they have dry takeout foods. But basically, it's relatively about the same, Pamela. I think it's going to. I'm looking at a report right now going on television, and I think they're going to crack down a little bit tighter here in Harris County. They may tell people to stay more focused by staying at home more. But people are really moving around where I am right now. But we know it's coming. But I'm already practicing more constraints than I have in the past. So, and I'm following a lot of the things like what you're talking about as far as just certain things, keeping certain windows, no windows open or anything like that. So in a form, I guess I'm really kind of isolating myself at times, but I haven't been put under any controls by the system yet. Not at this point.
Well, and we've been hearing that they even say on the news about how Texas is not moving as quickly as some of the other states. It almost seems like this virus is sort of moving down south slowly but surely. It's getting these areas. Now, Florida, of course, because especially as we have so many who are older there, the Sorrentinos can tell us what's happening in Florida, so that we can have a comparison. But yes, some areas are being restricted heavily and others aren't. So it's good, Vastine, that you're starting to do some things for yourself, because it'll feel different when your local mayor tells you you have to do it and you've already put those things in place. So because then you feel like it'll allow you to feel like, oh, I'm in control of this. I had already done this. So you're not doing anything. You're not doing anything to me. I've already made those adjustments in my life.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's very
Thank
good.
You,
Thanks, Vastine. So Phil and Sue, can you tell us what's been going on in Florida?
I can't remember what I've already told you, but on the other calls, but a nursing home just about 10 miles from our house, 3 residents died, and one for sure was had the coronavirus, and then they're testing the other 2, and so now they don't even know where that came from. So all the people that work there and everybody that lives around, it's really kind of our area. I don't shop that area as much, but the pharmacy and things, I was in there. So just a lot going on here. They've closed all the beaches here, and really the spring breakers are wandering around and they can't eat anywhere, and they shouldn't have come to begin with. It's really sad.
We saw on the news people on the beaches. It's the last.
Well, they're not here in Fort Lauderdale. They've closed them. Those are up north. Fort Lauderdale has the most coronavirus cases. Broward County, that's us. You'll see Broward County, that's us in the state. And that's where the Fort Lauderdale beach is, and then on down to Miami. So it's real here. It's everywhere. There are probably thousands of people that have it. I've got 2 weeks worth of food and not been feeling well. I've been trying to talk to the doctor the last few days to see about getting testing, and there's confusion here. They're supposed to have the mobile testing sites, and it's hard to find, and nobody really knows, and they're not here yet. They're taking the Broward County Airport and they're making that into hospitals. So there's all kinds of stuff going on here, just, massive things going on here right now. So.
Well, Susan, we just hope that you will feel better and just do everything you possibly can.
Well, I was in the store where there was a guy who I think I mentioned this, that just arrived from Spain. He got in the last day and he comes right to the store, and I didn't know it while I'm talking with him. So, but, we just had our physical, and the doctor, he looks at our blood work. He's like, I can't believe how wonderful your blood work is. You guys, he said, if you were to get it, you'll just have a mild case and go on. You won't have any troubles with it. So, that's good news. And I know that we're in excellent health, and, we eat right, and we're all set here. But now they're talking more about the young people and, the millennials and the 20-year-olds. And, they're saying now, hey, you can get really sick. So this is the big news right now that's concerning. And they think that they're invincible.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And we have, Florida has I don't know if it is the biggest state for seniors. and the spring breakers coming down here all over the place with, you know, the large population of seniors that we have here. And now it is in the nursing home here. So that's really sad.
Right. Okay. Well,
but the supplies are still
uh-huh.
you know, I had mentioned about, you know, they should open that early for seniors, and Whole Foods now is open from 7 to 8 in the morning for seniors. And Fresh Market has special times on Wednesday, and a few of other grocery stores have that going on for seniors. So that's good news. And caretakers.
Right.
And my mom's caretaker, I knew that she took care of a lady over at the nursing home where this happened. And sure enough, you know, she has one of her people there. And she's my, you know, neighbor, that helped me take care of my mom. So I'm, you know, a little concerned for her because she's in her 70s and she was exposed over there herself. So it's a tough situation.
Yes.
And still for our seniors.
Yep, absolutely. And we're going to talk a little bit. Yes, hello, that Phil?
Yeah. Well, my revelation during all this, when we're talking about, you know, who's at risk, the elderlies and the seniors, I finally realized I'm in that category. I didn't think I was in that category till now, and I'm at 68 and a half years old. I am an elderly and a senior. I just first realized it just now. So, oh well.
Yes, absolutely.
But you're healthy, you know, you don't have any health issues that would interfere with that. And that's the biggest thing. It can be anyone at any age with, you know, diabetes or heart disease or those sort of things. So taking good care of ourselves is still the most important thing. And, you know, keeping your immune system, for those even that have issues, just keeping your immune system built up right now with vitamin C and zinc, and eating good foods, not eating junk during this time to keep your immune system strong.
Absolutely.
Well, another thing is I act very immature. Yeah, I'm a 6-year-old locked in an adult's body.
Okay. All right. Very good. Okay.
I can attest for that.
Okay, you too. That's funny. Well, thank you for filling us in on what's happening in your arena. Is anybody else experiencing self-quarantine and have some thoughts about how you're feeling about that happening in your area?
Yes. So, well, we're in Pennsylvania. Things are similar, the same. We have the stores, not much groceries on the shelves in the store. In New Jersey, where I commute to often, you know, there is a curfew. There is curfews to 8 o'clock, from 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. There is a curfew now currently in that state. So we're experiencing similar to what a few others expressed. Drive-through is the only thing that's open in stores. Most restaurants have shut down the, eat in. You can take out, but you can't eat in. And so that's been my experience as of 2 days ago when I was in New Jersey. And coming back to Pennsylvania, it was, it's pretty much similar, but there's no quarantine yet as of today, NPA, however, or curfew, what I meant to say. And there is a curfew in New Jersey. We've been, part of our training has been always to prepare for times like this and to be prepared for times like this, and have stored water up, and we have gas stored up for the generator if in fact it needs to happen to kick in, and just to and that's where. So one of the things now is storing up water and filling up water containers to have plenty of water, and then make sure that we have water and food, and attempting to store and make sure that we can stay in a position so that we can take care of and be in a good place. But that's where we are with it, and it's on the East Coast. Thank you for that one.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Yep, letting us know. Okay.
Can I say something, Pam?
Absolutely.
If someone runs low on, everybody's buying bottled water, but in reality, we have really if the city water, wherever you live, if the water there is deemed safe, your hot water heater in your home, if let's say you have a 50-gallon hot water heater, if you utilize the hot water from your hot water heater, that really is some of the cleanest water you can drink.
Yep.
So that's one thing you can always, as long as you still have power and gas to keep your hot water heater running, utilized or whatever, that's really some of the cleanest water you can drink. They don't tell us that, but it really is. Because if you take and just do a sample taste of the water from your hot water side of your faucet, it is absolutely cleaner than the tap on the cold side. But just something to bear in mind, if you run out of bottled water, as long as your hot water heater is being utilized, it's clean water.
Absolutely, Vestine. Thank you for reminding everybody of that.
Mm-hmm.
You're
welcome.
Yep, storage and that you have in your house at all times, regardless. Well, and Deanna can let me know if anybody else has their hand up, but as we look at all of this and everything you've described, we're talking about change. There's change going on in our communities. And everyone reacts differently, as we said, to change. And what we're talking about today is how do you cope with this change? Now, the change is disconcerting to everybody, but it's really impactful for the children and the elderly. And they're going to exhibit anxiety in countless ways. And what I want to talk about is how different members of your family and different members of the community may react to the change that you've just finished describing so well. And you, as the adults in your household, have to be mindful that, especially with children, that you may see them have contrary behavior. But it's not, don't take it as a personal affront. You need to exhibit patience with the young people and the older people in your household. And it's going to be critical for you that when you have those conversations with your friends on the phone about what's happening, you're having lost your job, you're maybe not having income and being concerned about how are the bills going to be paid, how long is this going to be going on. You need to have those types of conversations with your spouse and or with a friend on the phone, out of the earshot of children and the elderly, because they are extremely sensitive about picking up on your level of anxiety, and it will only compound their own. So it's not to negate that you, as the adult in the family, have feelings, have legitimate feelings, because this is impacting you as well as everybody else. But I do need to remind you that you need to be mindful that how you act in front of the others in the family will only increase or decrease their level of anxiety. Now, your youngest children, and I know some of you have really young children, may become confused about why they're staying home. They may even internalize and think, well, I must have done something wrong for mom to keep me home, because they really want to be at school with their friends playing and learning. So you may need to reassure them that they have done, their being home is not a punishment. They did nothing wrong. And you explain what's happening, that there is this virus, there's a sickness, and we don't want them to get sick. And it's been advised that children stay home from school for a few days. We're not quite sure how many, but we're going to hang out here to make sure you don't get sick. They can understand that because they've seen children become sick in their classrooms before. But despite that, you may see some behavioral changes in them. And especially with the youngest children, depending again, their level of worrying, you may have some bedwetters, especially for those preschoolers who are going to daycare. So they may start bedwetting again. There may be loss of appetite. They may be very contrary, not want to do anything you tell them to do. And that's all their way of acting out and dealing with depression and anxiety. Now, elementary and middle school children are more likely to look at this as a great vacation. They can get this more. They get the fact that, oh, all right, we're out of school. It's spring break time. It's like, okay, we can do this. This is great. We can play. We can have games, etc. And especially if they have siblings that they get to interact with. Now, if you have an only child, then it means that you as the adult in their life are going to need to spend more one-on-one time with them, because your child, your only child, is not having that socialization that they were used to getting in a classroom. And that's really hard for a single parent to want to interact with their only child that often, 24/7, to get down on the ground and play, or sit at a table and play for a game for a long time. Especially if you're the type of parent or you're the type of person who didn't play games. Maybe you had been raised in a house where children didn't play games. They were supposed to be serious students, and you go to work all the time, etc. And if you didn't have a life experience that was enriched with a lot of play is a difficult thing to get engaged in. But your child may need that from you. So you may find that you have to go and be someone you haven't been before in your life. You may have to rediscover the child in yourself. Now, Phil told us he's a kid at heart. So he'd probably be one of those people who could easily get involved in play. I was a child who never played. So that's extremely difficult for me. And it feels very uncomfortable. So that's why I say no two people are the same. It depends on your background, etc. But you also have to rise to the occasion. And whatever is necessary for the well-being of your child, you need to do, uncomfortable or not. And especially if you're raising an only child, you may have to engage in play and activities that are really first-time experiences for you. Now, teens and young adults, they're going to be annoyed because they pretty much at that point are very integrated into social activities. They're in sports, they're in dance, they're in choir, they're in music classes, they're in all sorts of social groups with their peers. And they're going to be annoyed that they're not able to hang out with their friends. But if they're allowed to communicate with them, whether by phone or by computer, you may find that they are able to more easily cope, because they'll just stay on the phone all day long. They'll stay on the computer all day long, talking to their friends. They're going to find a way to stay connected. And they may not want as much of your time as you may think, because at this age, teen and young adult age, they're more interested in their peers. Okay, let's see, somebody wrote, I don't exist when my son has his tablet. Yes, today's children are used to working on their own. And if you can give them a tablet and that's what they're used to, that may be fine. You may even you may have to pry them away from the tablet to have some social activity with you, if that's something you want. And it allows a better bonding between you and your child. A bonding that didn't exist when you were at work 8-10 hours a day. And you may have been thinking, I've always worried about being away from my child 8-10 hours a day working. I know I'm not bonding. Well, this is an opportunity to bond. Your child's not used to doing that with you, so you may have to encourage them to put the tablet down and engage with you and have an experience of bonding that otherwise would never have happened had this self-quarantining time not appeared in our lives. So then there's the elderly. Some of us are taking care of parents.
Yeah, I had
yes, please.
Ideas on the children.
What about it, Susan? I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I had a couple of things that I heard, that beneficial for the children and the families.
Okay, share that with us, please.
There are life skills that the kids don't know and the parents don't have time and nobody's ever home to do it anyway. So they just kind of go by the wayside, like learning how to sew a button on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you mentioned that yet.
No, I haven't. But this is fine. And this is one of those activities that we're going to be able to talk about too, about what you do with your children when we're home. But absolutely, share some more right now, because this is appropriate for all of us to hear.
Right. Learn how they show them how to write a letter and have the kids, write the envelope on a letter.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That was another thing I saw. And scanning pictures, and the mom shows them, she has a stack of those that she wanted done, and give those responsibilities to do. So not just the play, but also learning new things. And then I don't know if he was an actor, but a father in New York, and they have 5 children. And so they're making a big deal and they're videoing dinner time.
Okay.
So they have the table all set. Everybody has a job. Everybody's doing something. And then they sit down and have discussion. And the dad's saying it's really the only time of day where everybody's behaving because they're videoing it. So dinner now has become enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
So they're making, they're on YouTube. They're putting it out on YouTube. And they were on Good Morning America this morning. So that's kind of family do some sort of fun thing that they're gonna, maybe video and have people see where they're doing things a little nicer.
Mm-hmm. Great. Great ideas. Those are the types of things that people are going to need to know that they can do with their children while they have them home. Thank you for sharing it. And then some of us have elderly parents. I'm sorry. Oh, Mr. Tony is unmuted. Okay. Somebody's unmuted. They not want to be. Okay.
I wasn't sure if I wasn't sure if he wanted to speak on what we were currently speaking on.
Mr. Tony, did you want to say something?
No, I made a mistake. I'm still listening to everybody. I just had to go offline for a minute. But
okay. All right. You can just go ahead and mute yourself again. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know, Deanna. I didn't want to miss anything he wanted to say. Oh, and let's see, somebody else put in a note. One of the things the school has done is provided work online for the students to keep them engaged in learning. Yes, absolutely. So that is certainly something that you can do. Online learning for the youth is important. All right, now, elderly. The elderly relatives are shut up in the house with you. That's another experience. They often have difficulty dealing with adjusting. First of all, they're not used to having so many people around them all day long, and it's overstimulation. The noise, the commotion, just the socialization with so many people can often make them withdraw to become irritable. And you may find behavioral changes like a change in their eating habits or sleeping habits. And they too need reassurance, just like children do, that everything's going to be all right. And you need to, as the adult in the household, you need to provide them with a chance to have space and time alone so that they can process and acclimate to changes. Many times younger children may want to be all on top of grandma 24/7 too, but grandma needs or grandpa needs some time by themselves. And you may have to say, we're going to let grandma and grandpa have some quiet time, and carve that out in your day. Last but not least is you the adult in the family that's supposed to keep this all together during all this change. And you're going to have a wide variety of experiences and feelings during this time, and that's normal too. And you need to be sensitive and caring for yourself. You know, one day you're the breadwinner, and then the next day you wake up and you're wondering how you're ever going to put bread on the table. One day you're at work handling your responsibilities, and the next you have no job and wonder, what are you going to do with yourself and your time? You were used to being away from the family 8-10 hours a day, maybe even longer. And now you are thrust being around your spouse and your children 24/7. And you have to be forced to deal with their behavior and their emotions. And you're having to figure out, how are you going to interact with them? All of this change is unsettling. And you may need to find that you have to create time for yourself at home, sort of your own time out, your own quiet place to go, because you're not used to being around family members 24/7, and you need a break from them. Although you may love them, you have not learned and never had to learn how to live with them, because you were really living more of your life away from them. You may have only had an hour in the morning and maybe 1 or 2 in the evening. And you had adjusted to that, and that was acceptable and something you could manage. But to now be forced to be in their company 24/7 is a whole nother ballgame. And some people discover, despite loving spouses and their children, they don't do well being around them that often. And it can cause tension and disruption in the family dynamic. You need to understand, so it's not always a good thing when families come together. It's not hunky-dory. You may have real trouble coping with the personalities of your family members when you are thrust in their company every day, 7 days a week, for an unlimited period of time. If you're having trouble coping with being with family members for whatever reason, then you need to have some time to separate from them. This is a great time for you to go for a walk by yourself. You may need to go outside and garden by yourself. You may need to go read a book by yourself. And then over time, you may be able to build up a greater tolerance of your own family members and be able to enjoy being in their company, learning how to be in their company. You must also remember that you're not, yes, Lorraine, hi. Did you unmute? Oh, I see Lorraine came on. All right, I want you to remember that during this time, you're not alone with coping with these issues. Your family, other family members who don't live with you, and your friends are also dealing with these issues of quarantine and coping. And so this is a great time to reconnect with them. Pick up the phone, give them a call, find out how they're doing. How are they feeling? Ask the questions. How are you feeling? What are you doing? And listen. And don't presume that they should be doing what you're doing, because remember we started this whole discussion with we all are going to come into this situation with different feelings because it impacts us differently given where we are. So you want to listen and find out how people are doing both physically during this time with the virus. And, you know, as Susan was talking, she's not feeling particularly well because she had an interaction with someone who had just come in from Europe. And so we're going to, you know, put her well-being in our prayers. But we also want to know how people are doing emotionally. We need to listen to them and find out if there's anything you can do for them, if there are any services that you can provide for them. So talk to friends, talk to family. It's important. I know I have a friend in New Jersey who I've known since we've been 8th grade, and I called to check on her. She's living alone and she's losing her mind and is calling me about cooking. And she has, she's making some terrible recipes that she can't even eat herself. So she's calling me, asking me how to prepare meals for herself. So you never know. I mean, that's hard. She's been used to eating out at restaurants because she's alone and she didn't want to cook for several years now just for herself. So she has been eating all her meals out. And during that course of the last 5 years of not having to cook for anybody, she forgot how to cook. And now being forced to be home because the restaurants are closed, she forgot how to season things. So she ruined a pot of chili by putting too much red pepper in, thinking it was paprika, and it wasn't edible. So we're down to, with her, teaching her cooking 101 skills. Anybody else have any interesting stories about discussions with family or friends and how they're coping? Okay, next, and this one I need you all to listen to. Stop watching TV all day long. It's really easy to become a news junkie during a disaster. After 9/11, people were fixated on the TV, and what they watched were the planes going in to the towers over and over and over again. They watched the people jumping out of the windows to the ground, out of the flames. They watched the first responders covered with ash coming down the streets of New York. They watched all of this 24/7. And what many of you don't realize, and you may not have known, is that the people who were at Ground Zero, 9/11, were not the only ones who suffered post-traumatic stress. As I was a clinical director of a mental health center in Baltimore at that time, and I cannot begin to tell you how many people had to come into therapy. They weren't at 9/11, but they were suffering from post-traumatic stress. They were traumatized by watching that scene over and over again on television. And their PTSD was as real as anyone else's. They were having nightmares. They could not eat. They were shaking. Their blood pressure had gone up. They were thinking the world is at its end. We're not going to survive this. They could not cope. Some could not even go back to work and function. There are many people during this time with the virus who are so fixated on the news. How many people have the virus? How many people have died today? And yes, the numbers are increasing. And yes, the numbers are going to continue to increase because unfortunately, here in the United States, we're about 2 weeks behind everybody else in terms of even knowing how far the spread is, which is why such drastic measures are being taken for all of us to isolate, because every one of us can be potentially someone who is carrying the virus. Because we know that you can carry it for 7 days, feel in the best of health, and not realize you are infecting everybody. Maybe because of someone you ran into in a store. And so it's important with all this unknown, with all the coverage, news coverage, that you don't inundate your mind with all of this. That you make the time while you are quarantining in your house to do other things. That's not to say you don't turn on the news. You need a certain amount of information so you can make informed choices. There was just yesterday, there was a group that had been off the grid. I think they were in, it may have been Yellowstone Park or whatever, for a long period of time. And they had just come out, they'd been hiking in the park for weeks, off the grid, not watch TV, no news, and they'd come out, and the car that they had arranged to pick them up when they were finished with this long 2-3 week hike, the gentleman the first person thing he asked them as he picked them up was, have you been around anybody who came, from a foreign country? Have you been this? And they're asking, what the heck are you talking about? Why are you asking us these questions? And he said, well, because of the virus. And they went, what virus? And he said, where the hell have you been? He said, camping. We've been camping off the grid. What's been happening? And the driver had to fill them in on what's happening in the world. They were oblivious to all of it. Well, it doesn't help for you to be oblivious to what's happening. You need some information, but you don't need to let it consume you to the point that you can no longer function. And that's important. Nor allow your children to get sucked in to seeing it and let it raise their anxiety. Now, the other thing to think about is that you need to create a schedule for your day. And that will help you be able to function better. Consistency will provide comfort and assurance to everybody in your household. So, create that. It's not just free for all for 2 weeks. So have a schedule. This is the time we're going to get up. This is when breakfast is going to be. Get the children maybe to learn how to help you with breakfast. Some of the tips that Susan was also talking about, teaching them some skills. Then many of you are going to be doing homeschooling for the first time. If you've never done homeschooling, you're going to need to get on, first of all, on a computer and Google homeschooling. What do you do and how do you do it? If you've not been a teacher in your professional life, you may not know, even be clueless how to begin to be an instructor of your children, who are going to probably have different age ranges and are going to have different learning needs and as well as the subject matter. You're going to have to do some research about this is a new skill I have to learn. How do I be a homeschool teacher? What do I need to have? What materials do I need to have? How do I teach my children these things? But this would be, so homeschooling, because you want to make sure your children don't fall behind their peers, their classmates. They're going to become anxious about that. Remember, our goal in coping with being quarantined is to reduce anxiety. For our children, they're going to be like, well, what happens, Mom, when I go back to school? We've been away and we were in the middle of learning science, or we were in the middle of doing this experiment, and or I'm supposed to graduate and now school's closed, and will I be able to graduate? Is this going to mess me going up into high school or go to college? All of these issues and questions are going to be bombarded upon you. You're going to have to figure out answers for it. You're going to have to do some research. You also don't want to do homework all day long. You don't want to run your house like you're a general and make it so that the children feel like this is the worst thing in the world. So you want to schedule some breaks. You want to have some outdoor recess time in your backyard, maybe throwing a ball around, chasing the dog, walking the dog if you have a dog. Have some game time. Children learn through game playing. They learn good sportsmanship. They learn taking turns. They can learn subject matters. We're going to be talking in the second half of this class about all the resources and types of games you can use. So learning and having games is going to be critical. And you're going to need some quiet time. You need to be away from each other. It may be, okay, it's whatever time you can, everybody go to your room or everybody go wherever you want. Somebody wants to go outside. You can take a nap. You can read a book. You can get on the phone with your friends or get on the computer. But for the next hour, it's going to be quiet time in the house. It allows everybody to decompress, to have some time to be in their own head, to think. Maybe it's the time somebody wants to say a prayer or to meditate or to exercise or to do whatever, but it's your time. And that's the critical thing. Quiet time is your time to choose what you need to do today. It may be not the same thing you'll choose to do tomorrow during the quiet time because your needs are going to change. It's important to mix it up, to be creative, discover new things about yourself. Remember, I started this talk about you're going to have to discover who you are in this new normal. To discover some things. You may find you have some talents and some interests you just never knew about because you were so busy working all the time. You never had time to know that about yourself. And you want to look at this not as something that's just been imposed upon you, although it has been imposed upon you, and that's a reality. But you need to look at it as an opportunity to expand your coping skills and build your level of resilience. In that, those coping skills and level of resistance will help you when the next crisis comes along. Because there's going to be another crisis. It may be an earthquake next time. It may be a tornado, a hurricane, whatever, fires. But something will happen and it's going to cause a disruption in your life. And I want to say also, and I'm going to make a pitch for this, that when you are reading, if nothing else, during these times, as I'm closing about talking about coping, I want you to remember you can always stop and count your blessings. Yes, you are confined in your house. Yes, your life has been turned upside down. Yes, your economics have been shredded. You don't know where the next dollar is coming from. But you have much to be grateful for. For many of you, this is the first time you get to rest. You've been burning the candle at both ends. You haven't been able to get decent sleep. You haven't been able to eat nourishing meals. You haven't been able to take a nap when you need it. There are a pile of books you have that you always wanted to get to. You never had time to read. You have time to read them now. Your children, you love them dearly, but you have to work to support them. And it means you don't know them very well because you're away from them. This is an opportunity to get to know each of your children as individuals, to have that private conversation to say, Johnny, tell me, what do you like? What's your favorite color? If you could do anything in the world, what do you want to do? And listen. And know that Johnny is not the same as Susan. And that's great. And to be grateful. And this is a great time to just give thanks. And as you're reading books, I'm going to make a suggestion. And I'm going to suggest that one book you really going to want to read during this time is this one. It's by Antonio T. Smith, called Happy and Grateful. This is one the ATS team knows very well. Those of you who are on this class, who are part of ATS, we've all had an opportunity to purchase this book and read it. But if you have been so busy working and haven't had a time to finish reading it, use this time to finish it, because it reminds us that there are some universal laws of happiness that even in the most difficult of times and situations, we can all find a reason to be happy. So we're getting ready to go into the second half of this class. But before I do, I want to give you all a chance for anyone to finish talking about coping skills or share with each other anything you do, particularly to cope during difficult times. Do you have any last words on that? Otherwise, we'll move on to resources. What are we going to do during these next couple of weeks when we're home so that we don't kill each other and we don't go stir crazy and we don't feel like we're suffocating from cabin fever? We have lots of ways to describe being forced into being home for an extended period of time. A lot of us don't do well when we're sick and the doctor tells us, I need you to take these antibiotics and I need you to stay home for the next 4 or 5 days. We think that is difficult. Well, this is going to be even more, this is going to test our mettle. But ATS people are up for the challenge. Does anybody want to say something before we go forward? Otherwise, we're going to just keep moving through.
I have something.
Yes.
A couple of different ways to cope with being inside. And sometimes I just literally just step out my front door.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just walk to my driveway. Something as simple as that, just getting some sunshine and some fresh air on your skin and in your lungs helps. Also a puzzler. Like I literally have a puzzle in my computer. Like I literally do puzzles.
Look at that. I've never even seen something like that. Yana, thank you for sharing. You can do puzzles. I used to love to do puzzles. See, now you have just shown me something I can do.
I love it. And recently, if you're able to go back into a store, I found a box at Walmart that has like 15 puzzles in one. I could be exaggerating, but it was a multiple number of puzzles in one box.
Okay.
So, and I read because I have a very active imagination. So for me, reading is like watching a movie. Like I can seriously read a book and picture every single thing out. So those are the ways that I cope, just to, just stepping out, just simply stepping outside, doing a puzzle or reading a book.
Okay. All right, great. Thanks for sharing that. That's wonderful. Well, this morning, I want to share something that I found online. Bill and Susan may have already seen it. Being part of the Bureau of Dominant Speakers, we were last year required to enroll in the Speakers Hub and ourselves. And the Speakers Hub put out a post this morning that I think is excellent. And so I just want to share it with you because you can all go look at it for yourself. It talks about 20 resources for presenters and speakers for them to be able to cope during this time of quarantine. Because as you know, your speaking engagements are being canceled right and left because you're not supposed to have groups get together of more than maybe 10 now, depends on where you are. So they are providing some guidance for professional speakers like ourselves about what we can do during this time. And so it's entitled 20 Resources for Presenters and Speakers. That's their post. And it just 3 main things I just touch on briefly that they talk about. They talk about building, use this time. If you're in Phil and Susan's class, that this is a great time to build your online speakers community. You need to find other speakers and start talking to them. Talks about creating a group chat and an online meetup with other speakers. You can set this up and encourage other speakers who are home because they can't speak to come online with you. And you all can talk about what it's like to be a speaker and have all your engagements canceled for the next 2 or 3 months. Not only what that means because you've prepared for them and it's on your calendar and you had scheduled your trips and you rearranged your personal life to deal with it, but also because it's throwing your financial situation into a tailspin because you were counting on that money, you were counting on making that presentation, and now that's been canceled. So it's talking about creating a group chat or online meeting. And they give suggestions about how, as a presenter and a speaker, you can find and build your online tribe and community. So I just want to share that with you. It's Speakers Hub again. It's their post today specifically for speakers and presenters to help us who are part of the Bureau of Dominant Speakers to know how to cope with this time period. So I wanted to share that one right off the top. Then we have provided for you a link, and Deanna has posted it several times in the chat. We hope that you will click on that, look at it, and if you have capability to print it out for yourself, Lorraine and I worked together to put together some strategies that are available for you to think about, because we know you all have different age groups of people in your home, and you all have different, and they all have different interests, you have different interests. So we try to do something that touches on everybody. Let me sort of run through these and then we'll talk through them. So first of all, there are 450 Ivy League, and in case somebody is in their car driving, and I know many times in ATS class, you can't see this because you're at work and you can't have the screen up or you're driving. So I'm gonna read it out loud, we'll run through it and you'll know what we're covering. But this is something that you can always reach out to Deanna for, or when you view this, the taping of this show, you'll be able to get the material for yourself. So here's some strategies we've just provided for you. It's just a beginning. 450 Ivy League courses are available now, online, free, and we've given you the link for that. Many people have said, oh, gosh, I wish I could go to Harvard, Yale, Princeton, etc. That I'll never be able to afford that. I wonder what type of classes they have. Well, guess what? They put 450 of their classes online, and you can get them now free of charge. This is a great time if you're trying to expand your knowledge. You can, if you're into opera, the Metropolitan Opera is now affording free streaming of their operas. I know I grew up in Jersey. I was blessed because I'm old. It used to be affordable to go into New York and see the opera, to see symphonies. We did all of that all the time. I couldn't afford it when I had my child. It was now no longer affordable to me. I could not take my son into New York to see an opera and a symphony. I couldn't afford it. I was a single parent. You all may be in the same situation. It may be just because of where you live geographically. You don't have access to the arts. Well, this is a great time to be able to expose not only yourself, but your children to the arts that otherwise you might not have access to. So Metropolitan Opera has free screenings. There are free virtual tours of 12 famous museums that are now online. There are free virtual tours of world cities. You're homeschooling your child. You're talking about Europe. You're talking about France, in Paris in particular as a city, or this, Rome as a city. Hey, check it out. We've given you the link. See if that's one of the world cities that you can take your child on a virtual tour of, so that as you're homeschooling them about these places, they get to see it for themselves. We can't jump on a plane anymore and go take a vacation and go to those cities. And we don't know with this virus when we're ever going to get on a plane again and travel the world. So in the interim, we'll bring the world to you, into your house. Next, there are 9 virtual field trips for elementary school students. So if you have an elementary school child at home, and you're like, oh, they're missing out on the field trip at school, etc. You're their home teacher. We're gonna let you take them on a field trip because we've given you the link how they can go on 9 of them during the next few weeks. Also, there's a free virtual field trip to the San Diego Zoo. I don't know if any of you have been there before. It's quite an exciting zoo. Check it out. Young and old really like the zoo. So if you're into animals, this is the place to be. Universal Studios is releasing its latest movies in the theaters to on-demand streaming. It's because none of us are allowed to go to the theater anymore. So they had all these movies that were sitting in the theater, and we're not going, spending money to see it. So they're making it available. If you know, on demand is a subscription platform, but if you have on demand, you now have access to those movies from the theater. Then of course there are games. You can play family games like Monopoly, Scrabble, Bingo, Family Feud, charades. That gets the whole family together. And then there are ones that are challenging. You have to use that brain power a lot. Strategy, you want your child to learn strategy? Play some dominoes, backgammon, bridge, chess, checkers. So that's another end. Then of course, we want to exercise. So dance videos are a great thing. And you can learn a few new dances. Maybe you wanted to learn salsa. Maybe you wanted to learn the latest dance so you don't embarrass your child when you have to chaperone their school dance and they go, Mom, please, whatever you do, Dad, just don't get on the dance floor. You know, stand on the side like you're part of the wallpaper, but please don't embarrass me with your dancing. Well, maybe you need to learn a few dance moves. So put on some dance videos. Then there are, of course, our phone apps, all those that you can have for walking, cooking, exercising, utilize those. Then there's creative writing. Now, Antonio T. Smith would tell you this is the time you need to write that book. And this is the time you need to write that ebook. Do not let this time get away from you. But it's also a time you can write a journal. And some of you in ATS are quite the poets. We've heard you share your poetry with us before. I personally am hoping you're going to use this time to write some more poetry and publish it. So we all get to learn what's in your heart and in your mind. Then of course it's reading books, time to read books. And then of course, Antonio T. Smith, leader of ATS University, is a prolific writer. One of the newest books he has that I'm delving into is The Richest Man in the Trash Can. So if you haven't picked this one up, feel free. Look, got lots of pages. This will keep you busy for a while. But then there are other books. You have your religious scriptures. During times like this, sometimes we need to turn to our faith, whatever it is, and turn to the religious scriptures to find comfort, to find direction, to have understanding of what's going on in our world and how we're going to cope. So, and sometimes if you've been working on the weekends, etc., you may not have an opportunity to go and fellowship in a faith group with others. But this may give you some time to still pursue your own faith, etc. You can also use this time for personal development. You said, oh, I need to really work on how I communicate with people. I need really the thought process of rich man, poor man, so I can manage my finances better. This is the time You decide, what do you need to be the better you? And then you seek out the learning that'll take you to that place. Of course, you can always listen to music. You can either turn it on to listen to it, but you can play music. You can do karaoke. Last night, I was thrilled. John Legend got on Facebook, and he decided that his contribution to all of us was he was in his pajamas with his bathrobe on because he's not feeling well. He's sick. And he turned on his camera and he said, hey, look, I'm in my pajamas. I've got my bathrobe on. He said, but I know we're all stuck at home, but I just thought I'd throw you a concert. And he sat down at his piano and he said, type in what song you'd like to hear. And he started playing. And it was wonderful having a concert. Well, you or your children may have musical instruments or even be talented. This is a great time to tape them and post those videos so grandma and grandpa can see it and friends can see it. We can all benefit. Then there's cooking. So take out those cookbooks that have been collecting dust. Why don't you plan to try a new recipe every night? We've all stockpiled our house with food. Well, let's try feeding our families and ourselves something a little different. This is a good time to foster a shelter puppy. Shelters need help because, again, their staff may get sick and not be able to come in and take care of all the pets in the shelters. But you're going to be home for maybe the next 2 weeks. This is a great time to volunteer to be a foster parent to a shelter puppy. You can bring them home, and during 2 weeks, that's what you need to be able to teach them, housebreak them, teach them how to socialize, teach them some commands, so that when this is all over, they're adoptable. And it also lets the animals feel your love and compassion. You have the time to work with these pets while you're home all the time. Your children, it also gives them something to do. Gives them a responsibility. They may like the idea of having a pet for a period of time that they can be responsible for. Understanding they're going to have to give him up when they go back to school, but that they can feel like I helped this pet be adoptable. Next, physical fitness. All right, we got to stay in shape. If you're like me, I filled my house up with a good supply of cookies and all the things that are my comfort food. And I don't want to devour them all during the 2 weeks. We'll never recover from this physically. So stay in shape, yoga, aerobics, walking, dancing. Take the dog if you have a dog. Take them for walks. This is the time for all of us to stay in shape. Organize that closet, all your drawers. Clean out the refrigerator and the freezer. Go under the cabinets, all those things that we never have time. We say we need to do them, but we're too busy because I got to go to work. I have this, I've got to go give a speech. I'm giving a presentation. I'm trying to get that ready. I don't have time to do this. Well, now you have the time. Learn a new skill. This is a great time to learn a new skill. Calligraphy, knitting, crocheting, painting, computer skills. Maybe you did not know how to do a post. You did not know how to tape yourself so that you can do all the things we're taught here in ATS, which is get yourself out in front of your public. So this is the time, pick up the phone, call Deanna. You may have to ask her a question or two about some technicalities, about how to get going, but she'll be glad to point you in the right direction. But you have the time to work on your computer skills. Do it now. Then, of course, self-care. Time for that bubble bath and a glass of wine and a little soft candlelight. Yes, those things we don't have time when we're ripping and running all the time. Yes, I have a great imagination. I want ATS and all of you to take care of yourself. This is the time to ask to have somebody rub your feet. This is the time to ask for a massage. This is the time to give yourself that facial you've always wanted to do. And I see somebody has put in, I'm using this time to add content to my video database and finish that book. Congratulations. Oh, congratulations. We're looking forward to it too. We're going to hold you to that because we want to see it. So when it's done, you're going to come back on this class and you're going to tell us about it. And we're going to hold you to it. So we're excited about it. Next, social media blitz. Okay. I'm going to pick up where Antonio left off. This is the time you need to create daily postings about your business. You have no excuses now. Don't be telling me, I don't have time. I'm sorry. I'm at work. I can't do it. And by the time I get home, I have to feed the kids and I'm exhausted and there's no time. I'll tell you, Antonio doesn't even have to tell you. I'm going to tell you, none of us, myself included, we have no excuses for the next couple of weeks. If nothing else, we're going to shock the world with, they're going to know who ATS business members are. They're going to see all of us in a way they've never seen us before. So here's my challenge to you. Create a blitz every day. For all this time you have to be quarantined, every day you have to put at least minimum one post. Do more, but minimum one post every day about your business. Genealogy. It's a subject near and dear to my heart. This is the time to interview family members start with your oldest and then work down to the youngest. If they're not in your house, pick up the phone and call them and tape record the conversation. This is the time to create an audio story or a book of your lineage. You know, your children, it's something for your children and your grandchildren and all those that are going to come afterwards. But this is a great time. Elderly people love to tell stories. They'll ask them what happened during the Depression. The elders in your house are going to be the ones that are going to teach you skills about how to survive this. You're going to go, girl, this is nothing. We need to tell you about the time of the great blizzard of whatever, 1920 something. And we couldn't move for all this time. Or we can tell you, I can teach you how to grow your own food. Don't worry about coming here and telling me Safeway and A&P or whatever, Giant is out of food. You got a backyard, you got a ground, you got some food in the refrigerator. I'm gonna show you how to take those scallions and grow some more. I'm gonna show you how to take those lemons and grow a lemon tree. I'm gonna teach you this. Old people have a lot to teach us. We need to listen and we need to tap into their knowledge so they can teach us things, but they also can share with us history that is not in the history books anymore. You're not going to hear about it in school, but they have a rich history that is going to provide us with the skills that are going to allow us to survive the future. And it makes them feel important that they have something to contribute. So genealogy becomes something you want to do now. Also, this is a great time to do some planning. Plan some creative ways to reduce your expenses. This is a new normal. Life ain't going to be like it used to be. Money isn't going to be like it necessarily was before. We all need to take some time and think about, what have I been spending money on? What am I willing to give up? What do I need to give up to create income to do some other things that may make money for my family so I can more easily support them? Am I spending my money wisely? And then also think about ways to earn new money. Antonio has provided us with lots of ideas, especially in this book. No, this one. There is a chapter, first chapter. I sent it to about 10 people. It has all these suggestions about how to make money on your own. And I knew immediately reading it, people who needed this information, and also told them to get the book. So think about that. How can you earn some money? There's some ways you can do that online now while you're at home. I know that Deanna has told us in the past about looking in her closet at things that you didn't use and went through her whole house and how you sell things online and how she was able to make money by selling things that she had that were perfectly good at her home, but she wasn't using them. She put it out there and people snapped it up like this, and in came the money. Well, you may need to check out your closets in the kitchen, in your own bedroom, etc., and see if you have something that someone else might need. Okay, then you can do fun things like have an indoor scavenger hunt. Kids love that. Hide anything, and they'll like to tear the house apart trying to find it. Okay. Easter's coming up. We may not be able to go out and have our Easter egg hunt outside, but you might be able to do something on that order inside the house and make it a great scavenger hunt. Then you can go viral. Make a quarantine-themed TikTok. I think Antonio and his children are probably going to do this and blow up social media. You can also rearrange furniture in your house. Make it feel new, different. I know recently we changed our bedroom furniture around. Feels completely different. Feels like somebody came in and just turned it upside down. It's on a completely different wall. We moved the bed, we moved the dressers. It just feels fresh. Didn't spend any money, but by changing furniture around, it can make you feel like you're making some progress. You're taking care of your home environment. Then you want to make hand sanitizer because there's none on the shelves. And so you want to go to the Ice Buddy Facebook page and watch the video I put out yesterday on how to make your own hand sanitizer. So this is what we made yesterday. It's out online. You only need a couple of ingredients. You really need 3. 2 you have to have alcohol, aloe, and then whatever essential oil that you want to put in for the fragrance you want. Quick, easy, you can do it and create a lot of hand sanitizer. There's no excuse for anybody who's ever been on this class to not have hand sanitizer. Okay, next. This one's a little more touchy. This is a good time in your private time to sit down and update your will. Organize your health directives. Get that, have everything clearly written, instructions for whoever is going to handle your affairs when you transition out of this world. This is a delicate subject, but it's one we all have to face because none of us are going to be here forever. And unfortunately, with this virus, a lot of people are leaving much faster than they ever thought they would. And their families are really have been caught off guard. And conversations have not been held. Planning has not been done about what should happen and how you want things handled when you're gone. This is the time to write it all down, to leave something very explicit so that whoever is left behind doesn't have that worry. They know what you wanted and they can execute it on your behalf. Next, if you want a new look and you wear glasses like I do, go check out some new eyeglass frames at glassesusa.com. Allows you to put some glasses and see what frames look best. It's always fun to sort of dress up and try on some new outfits and see what new image we want for this new normal. This is a good time to practice a new language. If you are like me and you run an international company, then you need to be able to speak another language. I'm trying to brush off, I had many years of Spanish, but they don't speak Spanish on this island that I'm on, so I don't get any practice. So I have been trying to speak a little bit more. I've listened to a couple of shows in Spanish just so I can get my ear attuned to it. So these are things, it may be just another language you want to speak to communicate with people in your community. We have international communities. So if you want to be a better community member, being able to speak the language of your fellow neighbor is something that will help you move your business along and help you become better in terms of helping out in your own community. Then there's take lots of naps. When we're working, when all this is over and you have to go back to work again, you know how it is when you leave work for a week's vacation or you're out sick for 4 days. And I know Adonia knows when you come back, how much work is sitting on your desk waiting for you. It's like, oh, they just piled it up. It's just nothing got done while you're gone. Like, imagine being gone for 2 weeks or longer. We're going to have a lot of catching up to do. There's not going to be a lot of time for naps. So I'd advise all of us to take advantage of it, get that nap in now. So this is brief, and I talked about this briefly earlier, time to really talk to your children and your spouse, find out what their interests are, find out what's on their mind. You know, have a tea break, have high tea with your daughter, your teenage daughter, your 8-year-old daughter. Fix a little sandwich with some cheese and cut it in diagonals and fix a little tea and go, you know, sit down and have tea, high tea with somebody. Make it fun. Then go for walks. You need time to clear your head, to think, to plan. Play outside with members. So those are just a few of the things we had. Lorraine, I see you are here. I want to ask you on either the coping side of things we talked about this morning in the first hour, or some of the resources and anything else that I have not covered. Can you add some enlightenment to the whole class on this whole issue?
Thank you, Pam. And guys, forgive my delay. Unfortunately, in these changing times, the time clock on things that need to get done was sped up today by a couple of hours. So I had to scramble to be creative about getting some things done before some mandatory closures took place. And in this time of the new normal, you know, we're going to have to be creative about how we do things. Pam, as you were talking about the different games that we could play, like Scrabble or Monopoly, I realized that as quiet and as nice as I am, that I am very competitive. And I didn't realize how competitive I was until I started playing with my family. What that did for me was to help me to see the diversity that's in our family grouping. Sometimes we're so captured with getting up, running our errands, going to school, doing homework, that we forget that our parents, for example, are real comedians, that they have lived lives as children, as young adults, as teenagers, that we can kind of get a handle on why we are the way we are because we inherited their genes, but hearing their own stories as at our ages kind of helps us to connect with them in a different way that we wouldn't have necessarily been able to do or had time to do had not a situation that caused us to be home more often afforded us. I also like Deanna's idea about going outside. How about playing Scrabble or charades outside? It changes the environment that you're in. It helps those of us who perhaps are a little shy to kind of get out of some of our shyness, to get comfortable in our own skin, and to realize that we're not going to melt or, you know, evaporate just because we're in a different environment. Because sometimes when we are thrown into new situations, like this situation is causing us to be in, it's kind of hard to know how to cope or, you know, how do you fit in? And so changing the venue for something that we're familiar with doing can be a way for you to kind of build up some confidence and to realize that it's okay to have fun, make mistakes, and realize that you're in a supportive community of people. I couldn't imagine being cooped up or quarantined by myself, maybe for a day or two, but after a while, the novelty of that will wear off. And so having a close-knit group of people who I'm around is helpful because now I'm not just in my own head. I am also hearing other people. I'm getting their support. I'm feeding off their energy. And the more energized they are, that helps me to kind of get out whatever, you know, mental funk I may be in, to help me to say, you know what, I'm going to get through this. It's going to be okay. Doesn't feel good right now, but I can make it. I can do this. And so I think that's really important from a mental health perspective, to get involved, to change the to change the rules of the game that we're in, to be alive, to live, really, and to realize that there's so much around us that we've been missing. What the flowers smell like, that birds really still sing, even in wintertime. All those things that I've been missing out on because I've been a slave to my schedule and a slave to doing tasks. And now I'm forced to slow down and realize that there are so many more resources available to me that I didn't even know even were there. And so I want to say thank you to you, because working with you, is always a stimulating experience, but also hearing now some of those skills, your experience, come to the forefront of stimulating me to do things differently, and to say, you know what, that great book that I have in the corner, all 26 of them, I can start reading some of them and at least complete 12 or 13 of them. We know by the time we get through whatever this next phase is going to be, and then live my life of being in different places in a safe way, flying and just creating food and feeding people who live in caves or people who are on top of Mount Everest. I can do all those things from the safety of my own home in the virtual world that I can create. And so I'm just excited about what people are going to say when this time is over. I'm excited about the new YouTube stars that are going to be made during this time, because people are going to find ways to say, I matter. Life is wonderful. I can do this. I can help somebody. And so I'm just excited about what's going to come as a result of this, because resilient people will rise from this time of challenge for us. And I'm just excited to be a part of this time.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. As we're getting ready to wrap up, is there any comments or thoughts that anybody in the class right now would like to make before I share some last information with you? Susan.
I just want to say outstanding job, very well done, put together, and a lot of food for thought, a lot of wonderful information. Thank you so much.
All right. Well.
Hello, Pam.
Yes.
Yes, this is Vastine again.
Hey, Vastine.
Before you came on the air this morning, I was sitting out front because I've had my shrubbery out front trimmed for the seasonal trimming, and I saw the most beautiful red cardinal land in the yard. And it took me back to my childhood watching birds. I don't know how often people spend time with their children watching birds. They can teach us so much, just watching the way they socialize, how they eat, how they fly from one branch to the next. And if you live in a neighborhood where there are squirrels, and my neighborhood is just loaded with Rockies all over the place. And I just want to end by saying to look upwards. There's nothing more fascinating than cloud watching, because when you really look at the clouds, teach children, let them observe. They will see faces of relatives. They will see images that they'll never imagine looking at everything on the earth. But cloud watching is a wonderful way to spend time, and they will be shocked. They will see themselves, their faces in the clouds. It's just something I wanted to share, because those things got us through long summers, hot summers here in Texas, and it can work anyway if the weather is permitting. Thank you.
No, thank you, Vastine, and that for describing that and telling us how we need to be grateful and appreciate everything that's around us. And that's a great lead-in for what I just wanted to close with. Here at ATS, we have Straight Talk and we have all the ATS resources, because we're the survivors. We're going to survive. We're going to get through this. We are coaching each other and providing each other with knowledge and resources. So this is just part of life. And so tomorrow, Lorraine's going to teach the class. I'm sitting back, and you're going to get to hear from Miss Lorraine. And Miss Lorraine is going to be addressing the subject of the emerging identity of the new normal survivors. The emerging identity of the new normal survivors. And that's you. That you will be the new normal survivors. And so things will not be the same, and identity is not going to be the same. So we're going to have a discussion tomorrow. Rain is going to lead it, and I'm going to have a chance to sit back and listen more. And this is going to be exciting because we're here at ATS. What sets ATS apart from any other online program that I've ever been able to is we discuss things that are cutting edge. We discuss things that nobody else is discussing in a way that nobody else is discussing. And that's what is going to make ATS even shine brighter when this is all behind us. Antonio talked the other day about the opportunities that come out of difficult days like the ones we're going through now. And that ATS and all the businesses that are part of this will be able to shine a lot brighter because during this whole period, we continue to learn, we continue to grow, and we are prepared for what comes next. So I want to thank you all for your time today, your attention, all the great input you provided on coping and how to get through the next couple of weeks. We will not let this get us down. We're looking at this as an opportunity, a business opportunity to make our business more prominent on all social platforms, a business opportunity to plan and prepare to grow and have more clients when this is over. We're doing the strategizing, we're doing all that needs and putting in the time that needs to be done to talk to whoever we need to talk to so that we can make our business even better, bigger and better on the back end. One of the problems about being a business owner is having time to plan, to strategize. Well, this has truly been a blessing in disguise because it's going to force us to give us the time to do what we need to do to make it better. But it also is not just about our business. It's about us personally, that we're going to learn a lot more about ourselves. We're going to grow in our own personal development. We're going to have new skills that will take us into the new future and to be even more successful. So I want to thank you. I'm going to turn it back over to Miss Deanna to close us out.
Thank each and every one of you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much, Miss Pam, Miss Lorraine, Mr. Tony, for all of your hard work and everything that you have done as well. I do want to let everyone know that Antonio will be doing a free digital conference for whoever wants to attend called How to Multiply My Money. It will be this Saturday, the 21st from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So if you would like to attend or if you know anyone who would like to attend, please feel free to let me know. We will send that information over to you. It's free to everyone. So there's no limit to who you can invite. Whomever you choose to invite, please feel free to welcome them. Again, Ms. Pam, we have truly and honestly enjoyed your straight talk. We have not received the information that you have been giving to us like you have given it to us, and we're definitely looking forward to Miss Lorraine tomorrow to educate us as well. So thank you both so very much for everything that you're doing for us here at the ATS Business University. Everyone have an amazing day. Stay sanitized, stay safe. You can plan better, you can dominate. Good night. Well, have a good day.
Yes, have a great day, everybody. Bye now.